There is nothing that could have made the government to shut down churches across the country. Maybe you don't know God, then it can exist. But me, I know the God whom I serve. I am not a fake pastor. I don't rely on tithes. I'm not part of them. If we could keep the house of God open for Christians to pray to God for divine intervention, there is no doubt in my mind that this pandemic will quickly be a thing of the past. Only the lukewarm Christians will support the closure of the church. The quicker they reopen the church, the quicker the pandemic will vanish.
Hello and welcome again to Legit TV. My name is Damilare Okonla, and this is a special episode dedicated to the COVID-19 coverage around the world. The pandemic has ravaged the entire world and has brought us all to a standstill. Today we are joined by Pastor Giwa Adewale, a US-based minister of God whose ministry is domiciled in Nigeria, but is in the United States more frequently than we can say. So today he's going to discuss with us how the church is coping with the pandemic, how they are helping with people surviving this dire situation. So you're welcome again to Legit TV, sir.
Thank you so much, Damilare.
Yes, so how is it going out there? How are you coping with this pandemic, and how is the church coping with this pandemic?
Well, it's unfortunate that this pandemic has caused fear, panic among the people. And we have to obey the instructions given by the government that we should stay at home. But what I do, I instructed a few members of my church. They call them a prayer warrior group because there is power in numbers. I instructed them to meet somewhere and gather and be praying for the nations persistently. That is what I'm able to do.
Okay, so in terms of the need of the church members now, because if we've been asked to stay at home, probably the church is making attempts to provide for some of its members. Are you doing anything like that as well?
Thank you so much, Damilare. It's unfortunate that most pastors have neglected the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ. They are now doing things contrary to Matthew chapter 6, verse 3, that says, when you are giving to the needy, do not let your left hand know what is your right hand is doing. I don't need to disclose that. It's between me and God, and I know God shall vindicate us at last. My members are okay, they are happy, they are fine. Even those around me can testify that they are also happy. That is what I can say.
Okay, so some churches have also asked their members to stop paying tithes. Are you also a fan of that?
Well, God did not call me to collect tithes from the poor. I might not want to talk much on this. However, any man of God that relies on tithes is liable to fall into temptation that might lead to destruction. I took up this ministry to preach the true gospel, to help the poor with the little that God has provided for me. In our church, I go by Deuteronomy 14:28 to 29. That tells me how the tithe should be shared among four people. Number one, the fatherless. Number two, the foreigners. Number three, the widows. Number four, the servants of God. And I've been doing this relentlessly. I don't believe in tithing. I don't force anybody to pay tithes. I was reading recently where a man of God was telling his congregants that if you don't pay tithe, you won't make heaven. Let me leave the judgment for God to judge. At his appointed time, God shall judge us accordingly.
Okay, great. Are you saying that you've not been receiving tithes from your members before this pandemic or after this, since this pandemic started? Is that the situation with you?
I've never spent or collected tithe from any of my members, quote me.
Who did they pay the tithes to? You said you follow the biblical injunctions on who to give tithes to. So whom did they pay the tithes to?
The pastors are there. Those who are in charge are there. I don't even know how much they realize, but I instructed that the tithe should be shared among these four people, and which they have been doing that. They give to widows, they give to foreigners, fatherless, and others. I can tell you this.
Okay, so let me take you away from this a little bit. Maybe we'll come back to that. Churches have been closed in Nigeria, and at least prominent ministers of God have said the churches should be reopened if markets can be reopened. What do you think about this? Do you think the churches should be reopened?
Thank you so much, Damilare. I've been on this since when the pandemic started. I've been talking to our government persistently to reopen churches across Nigeria. It bothers me that we are now living in a society where people don't know the God they serve, especially Christians. They rather put their trust in humans than God who created us. No wonder Jesus Christ questions in Luke 18 verse 8 that when a son of man comes, will he find faith on earth? This is a question that we Christians need to be pondering over on a daily basis. Nigeria is often referred to as a giant of Africa. Also, statistics show that Nigeria is the most prayerful nation in the world. Therefore, in all ramifications, we should lead by example. There is nothing that could have made the government to shut down churches across the country. In Tanzania, the president refuses to close churches and mosques in his country. He says he believes that God is bigger than COVID-19. You need a God-fearing to run a successful nation.
God-fearing what?
You really need a God-fearing man, a God-fearing leader to run a successful nation. If we could keep the house of God open for Christians to pray to God for divine individuals divine intervention, there is no doubt in my mind that this pandemic will quickly be a thing of the past. This is because there is power in numbers, and even a fool understands these basic tenets. Let me tell you, Damilare, only the lukewarm Christians will support the closure of the church. The quicker they reopen the church, the quicker the pandemic will vanish.
But are churches in the United States open at this time?
You can't compare United States to Nigeria.
How is that?
Because Nigeria, like I said, Nigeria is the most prayerful nation. In times of prayer, Nigerians will go to the mountains and be praying. You know that. You and I know that. They pray, they fast. In America, you can't compare what is happening in America to Nigeria. And that is why sometimes I'm baffled when I see what our leaders are doing. They're trying to copy America. You don't copy America. It's an advanced country. They have made a lot of provision for the citizens.
Are you saying that Nigerians cannot pray without going to churches, or what's the necessity of the church building when they can actually pray at different places?
Thank you. They refer church as a building. Church is not ordinary building that you and I see. God's house comes first before schools, hospitals, and what I feel. If you have faith, like what the Bible says, like a grain of mustard seed, you can move any mountain. That grain of mustard seed faith is nurtured and nourished in the house of God. Like I said, there is power in numbers. A fool understands that there is power in number. And the majority of people who support the closure of God's house claim to be Christians. I am sure no true Christian will support the closure of the church. Look at Tanzania, like I said. The man believed. He said God is bigger than COVID-19. If we believe that God is bigger than COVID-19, there is no need for us to be closing the doors of churches across Nigeria. So I repeat, there is nothing that could have made a government or any government in the world to shut down churches in their country. There is nothing, absolutely. On the contrary, closing churches sends a clear message to God that we humans can handle situations without Him. That is just the meaning.
Okay, I want to take you up on this. Again, there's a report about a church in Korea. I don't know whether South or North Korea now, where we learned that a Sunday school teacher was COVID-19 positive, and because she went to church frequently, it spread to many other members of the church. Don't you think opening the church can further allow the spread of the virus?
It cannot. They put precautionary measures in place already. They have told us to be using nose masks and whatever they have set up for us. That should have been enough. With our faith, like I said, in God, COVID-19 cannot near us. It says 1,000 shall fall at our side. 10,000 shall fall at our right side. But it will not come near us. If we believe in God that we serve, there is no COVID-19. Like what I used to tell people, I don't believe that COVID-19 exists. I don't believe. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I have to come out straight. I don't believe it. Yeah, it exists. Maybe you don't know God, then it can exist. But me, I know the God whom I serve. I am not a fake pastor. I don't rely on tithes. I'm not part of them.
But in the United States, over 80,000 people have reportedly died as a result of these complications from this virus. And you still don't believe it exists?
Yes, because our weather in Africa is different from the weather in the United States.
You're
Don't get
saying it
me
doesn't
wrong.
exist. Are you saying in
Yes,
Africa or in the United States
yes,
or
yes.
where exactly?
What I mean by the disease doesn't exist is that it goes by your faith. My faith in God is strong. That is why I believe that COVID-19 doesn't exist. Because I don't believe that COVID-19 can near my tent, can near my house, or can affect any of my members. Impossible. That is why I said I don't believe in it.
Okay, you also said you don't believe in tithes. Could you also expatiate on that? How do you mean by you don't believe in tithing?
Well, like I said, when you go by what Jesus Christ says in the book of Matthew 23:23, because the pastors now are claiming to be walking according to the teachings of Jesus Christ, forgetting that they are only working for their own pockets. They are only enriching their pockets. They are getting the money from the poor and buying private jets and buying exotic cars, contrary to what our Lord Jesus Christ said about telling us not to gather wealth on earth. Jesus Christ says in Matthew 23, when he confronted Pharisees, do you know what he said to them? He said, you guys are after tithe, you guys are after money, but you have neglected the most important matters of the law. They have neglected justice, they have neglected mercy, they have neglected faithfulness, and they concentrate on tithing. That is why I said to you, when I start talking about tithing, I don't want to talk too much on that because I don't want to offend so many pastors who are out there relying on tithing. God shall judge every one of us at his appointed time, like I said.
Okay, since the pandemic started, have you received tithe from any of your members? You said you don't know how the sharing is done, but are you aware
What
of
I did,
tithe?
what I did when this pandemic started is that, because I don't want to talk about it, but let me just tell you emphatically. What I did was that I called a pastor as a pastor, and that was the only first time I will call to ask between man and God, how much do you have in church now? He told me how much the church had. How much is the offering? He told me. And I told him, Pastor, call some elders in the church. Then you guys should share this money and give to people in the street. That's what I did. They are hearing me.
But have they been
Apart
paying
from,
tithes afterwards? Have they been paying tithes?
I don't allow anybody to pay tithe. For what? Why should they pay tithe? My role is to be giving them money, not to be asking them to pay tithe. For what? My role is to ensure that my members are okay and they can bear me the witness. They are hearing, they will watch me, they will see. That is what I know about tithing. I'm not a pastor because I want to acquire wealth or getting money from the poor. If Jesus Christ could feed 5,000 people with just only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, that should have taught us a lesson that our mission is to provide for the poor, but not to exploit them. People might castigate me. They might castigate you for speaking the truth. But do not be distracted. I've made up my mind when I took up this ministry. No matter what, I will say the truth. I say the truth to government. I say the truth to religious leaders. I say the truth to anybody. I don't care. Only God can judge me. That is it, Damilare.
All right, thank you very much, Pastor Giwa Adewale, for your precious time. We sincerely appreciate your time out this period talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and, of course, how the church has reacted to this, how the government has also reacted to this by shutting every public gathering, not just churches now. Public gatherings of more than 10, 15 people uh, are no longer allowed in most parts of the world right now, unless, of course, places where they no longer have cases of COVID-19. So thank you very much for your time, Pastor Adewale. We do hope that subsequently you'll be able to also talk to us on several issues of national importance and national interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Damilare.
Have a
Thank
great
you
day.
so much. You too. Thank you.